Your favorite band's about to play a sold-out show, and you definitely got tickets. And drinks. Now hurry and make it back to your spot. Past this person and that person, about 20 more. Ooh, watch out for feet.
Hey.
Just keep going. A little further. Oh, there's your friend.
Over here.
Right where you want to be. Close enough to see the set list. And they're definitely playing your song. When you're with Amex, it's not if it's going to happen, but when. American Express. Don't live life without it.
Finding the right person for the job isn't easy. Just ask someone who hired a monster truck driver to deliver pizza.
And the neighbors are going wild. You can hear that engine from a mile away, Fran.
And he's foregoing the driveway and heading right up the lawn and over the azaleas. What a power move.
But if you've got an insurance question, you can always count on your local Geico agent. They can bundle your policies, which could save you hundreds.
With 6-foot tires and a roll cage, this pizza guy can quite literally crush the competition.
For expert help with all your insurance needs, visit geico.com/local today.
Welcome to the Vault Podcast, classic music reviews, presented by IV Creative. Now, here's your hosts, B. Cox and the crew.
Greetings and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another edition of the Vault Podcast, classic music reviews. Presented by IV Creative, it's a perspective of the classics from a fresh point of view. We appreciate you for taking your time and lending your ears to our perspective. You could be anywhere listening to anything, but you're right here with us, so we thank you. With you today is yours truly, B. Cox, and with me, I have my boy in the place to be, J.O., as we're going to chop it up here over the classics. Want to give a shout out to all the fans out there for continuing to push the numbers up. Continue to spread the word out there, guys. Remember, you can check us out at vaultclassicpod.com on the website. That's vaultclassicpod.com. There you go. Check out the shows. Leave us a review. You can leave a voice note of the blue microphone in the bottom right-hand corner. Just push that button. You can leave us a voice note. Show us some love. Also, you can go there as well to find our private Facebook community, the Vault Podcast Record Club. You can also find our Buy Me a Coffee, where you can support the show monetarily, give a small donation to make sure we keep things running. And of course, our podcast GPS course, which is there. We're going to have a very exciting announcement for that podcast GPS course coming up. So make sure y'all are staying tuned on that, as well as with IV Creative, who produces the Vault. Got some things coming up for that one as well. As we always say here on the Vault, our motto is hashtag open the vault, hashtag nothing but the classics, or MBTC. And today, Jay, we're going to go back to 30 years ago. We're doing the years of 92, 97, and 02 here on the Vault Classic Music Reviews podcast. So we're going to go back 30 years ago and go back to April 7th, 1992, and the debut studio album of none other than Want Efx, Dead Serious, released on East West Records. That's a throwback record label name right there. On East West Records. Recorded between February 91 and January of 92 at Firehouse Studios, famously, and North Shore Soundworks on Long Island, with a runtime of 38 minutes and 43 seconds. The executive producers on this, EPMD, of course, you know EPMD, members of the Hit Squad who found Want Efx and got them a record deal. We'll talk about that in a little bit. The producers on here with most of the beats, Solid Scheme, the production duo of Chris Charity and Derek Lynch. They were both friends of Skoob, one of the members of Want Efx. Dex as well, the other producer on this, as well as Want Efx producing their biggest hit from this album, which we'll talk about as well as we cover the songs on this. They Want Efx, the first single from Dead Serious, released March 5th, 1992. Mike Checka released July 16th, 1992. And Straight Out of the Sewer released in November 19th, 1992. So Dead Serious, Jay, a little bit of background for those who are not familiar how Want Efx came about being. Now, the two members of Want Efx are Dray and Skoob. Skoob grew up in Crown Heights in Brooklyn. Dray actually was born in Jamaica, came to the U.S. as a child, and then grew up in Union City and then Teaneck, New Jersey. They both rapped during their high school years, and then they met each other at none other than Virginia State University in the late 80s. They met freshman year on a road trip. Through another mutual friend, they became a duo and started rapping together. They won a campus talent show. Then they started performing around the area in that Richmond area, not too far from where Virginia State University is located. So they entered a show in Richmond at a place called Club Tropicana. A couple of the judges there were none other than Eric Sermon and Parrish Smith. And they performed their song, which would be a song on this album called Clap Your Hands. And They were very impressed by them. Eric and Parrish were. And they were going to be the winner because they had scored the most points from all the judges. Parrish went up to the host and basically told them to announce another group as the winner. Now, the grand prize for this contest, Jay, was $100. And, shoot, back in 92, $100 could get you some things back in 92. You know what I'm saying?
Little ways.
I mean, shoot, that's more than a few tanks of gas back then, and probably definitely a good amount of bag of weed if that's what you partook in. You know what I mean? So, and some other things. So
good old days.
Yeah. So after the contest, Paris goes up to Dray and Skoob and tells them like, "Yo, what do y'all want? Y'all want a record deal or $100? Meet me in the back of the club in 5 minutes." So they meet them in the back with Eric Sermon. And they played them Clap Your Hands. And they were impressed by it so much, they told them, "Yo, if y'all can record 9 more songs like that, we can get you a record deal." So they met up, stayed in touch with them while they were there in their junior year in college, and they finished out the school year, got the demo over to EPMD, and got them their record deal when they started recording Dead Serious. So that's how this whole thing pretty much worked out. And that's how Daz Effects came to being. Daz, of course, being the acronym for Dray and Skoob, and effects, meaning that they always wanted to constantly have their producers add reverb to their vocals when they were in the studio. At first, they said they made it sad effects for Skoob and Dray, but they said that didn't make sense, so they decided to change it to Dray and Skoob because it sounded much better as Daz Effects than sad effects. I agree, 100%. Here we are, Jado, Dead Serious, and this was their debut album, something that, for those of us back then that remember hearing Daz Effects for the first time, it was definitely unique, without a shadow of a doubt. I know that a lot of things back then in 92, the hip-hop was starting to change a little bit. The images are starting to change, what the songs were being talked about. The songs become a lot more explicit. Things were becoming a lot more grimy. I'll definitely start off with us to get our first reflections and thoughts on Dead Serious.
First thoughts and reflections.
So I'll start with you, Jay. Give us your first thoughts about Daz Effects and particularly about Dead Serious, what you remember listening to it this past week and your reflections from back then when you first got into them.
Okay, yeah. So back then, like you were saying, like the landscape of things was kind of changing. Granted, I think around this time, the West Coast was developing their stronghold as far as in the hip hop game, but like the East Coast was still coming through with acts, notably Daz Effects. Mm-hmm. I think like the first joint I heard, probably like everybody else, was like the joint they Want Efx, it was on the radio version, not the one that was on the album.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'm saying just the way they were like speaking, like with the whole language you call iggity. I'm pretty sure you remember that.
Yeah, man. So, like, that's their trademark. That was their trademark, man.
Right. Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like back then, because like my mother got the joint for me for my birthday, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh man.
Or maybe just before my birthday. And like, I mean, and that was one of the joints didn't have a parental advisory sticker on. I don't know if you remember that, but
it didn't.
So, yeah, like so, and matter of fact, I think like a lot of the profanity was like edited out. I don't even think they released like an unedited version.
Yeah,
yeah. So I'm up there listening to the joint. Like, joint comes in hard, like microphone Checka, and then like I was just, I mean, not to say I was on some oddball type stuff, but like a lot of people wasn't really rocking them because like they don't even use real words. It could be bad, you know what I'm saying? Like,
right.
So, I mean, we weren't calling people haters back then. Like, man, you don't know what you're talking about. Like tough. It was like that type of stuff. So like,
yeah.
Matter of fact, I remember like it might have spilled over in '93. Like, you know what I'm saying, 6th grade, Amidon Elementary. Like, you know what I'm saying, we were going on those like class trips and stuff like that.
Yeah.
King's Dominion was a spot back then.
Oh yeah.
So like whole time like riding down that joint coming back up, I'm up there blasting Daz Effects on my Walkman, like just in a vibe. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
So fast forward now. I mean, yeah, the production sounds a bit dated. Like it did its thing for that time. But you know what I'm saying? Like I just like start going back to my 11-year-old self, just like head nodding, like you know what I'm saying, having more appreciation for it now, like with the production and of course, like you know what I'm saying, that trademark was like the whole iggity like language and everything like that. But I mean, I realized it worked for them for that time. Is how I looked at it. Yeah. So I mean, some joints might have sound cool back then, but sound corny now. I mean, I still rock with it now. I mean, I guess like that sentimental attachment is keeping me there. But even there, like you know, I still like. This joint still sounds dope to me, but that's just me. So
no, definitely, and I think that's it's funny because we were talking about this before we came on recording. They were a part of the Big Daddy Kane KRS-One versus that they had at the Garden, or was it Barclays? I think it was Barclays. So they're there and they came out and did a song. They did, they Want Efx, and they had told people back then to keep watching out for them and everything. That kind of like brought them back sort of into the consciousness because in the early to mid 90s they were sort of around, and because that's really where the majority of their music came out, was in the mid 90s. 90s, in the early to mid 90s. But I think for the most part, other than an occasional old school mix, I think people sort of forgot a little bit about Want Efx, especially those who weren't around at that time. You know, don't really necessarily think about them, but you know, Unmistakable, definitely the singles were what jump out to you. To me, back then, like I remember the radio versions, and we'll talk about that as we get into the albums. The radio versions of those singles, man, are really what caught me, because those radio singles banged. I mean, the album versions are bad, but the radio singles for They Want Efx and for Microphone Checka definitely hit a whole lot harder. Like, especially,
Microphone Checka, that joint still hits.
Still hits, exactly. So the thing that what was unique about them is that whole iggity language, which they call sewage language, you know, it gave them a selling proposition because they were different. Also, it seemed like with them, they kind of took themselves seriously, but not too seriously. But the image they also portrayed sort of let you know that they were like some grimy, straight from the sewer, like those images in the videos that you saw with They Want Efx and Microphone Checka, you know, with the pitchforks and, you know, the oil drum fires and, you know, them being down in the sewer, the water sort of dripping down, and made it feel like, I mean, I know they weren't like the first grimy rappers out there, but they were the first ones, like, I would say visually, you could see something like that in a video where it seemed like, damn, this shit is cool as fuck. Like, who would have thought? Like, shooting a video that seems like in a sewer environment would be cool when it probably stinks like shit down there. But who cares? Because, you know, it sort of fit the same sort of message you were getting from the music. And you're right. The cursing they had in this joint, it was like edited out. Like, you normally used to getting that when you get CDs from Walmart. You know, when you would get the CDs from Walmart, you would get all the edited language. There was no parental advisory sticker on this. So this was something, while it was dope and it was head nod and everything else, it wasn't something that was necessarily overly profane, though they did have their moments in some of it. This CD is not even 40 minutes. Like, this album's not even 40 minutes long. It's a very quick listen. And now listening to it, I do have to say that now, like, listening to that style and, you know, the whole sewage language, iggity this and biggity that and everything, like, that you hear, I noticed that a lot of people picked up on that shit from them afterwards. You know what I mean? They really were innovators in that type of style. As a matter of fact, they were a guest on Ice Cube's hit on Check Yourself. You know what I'm saying? And like, even you can tell you better check yourself before you riggedy wreck yourself. I mean, so they were on the remix. So it's like, you know, they definitely had their influence on some people. And by the time they came out with their second album and also the third album by Hold It Down in 95, you could see that they were moving away from that style because so many people bit it. I mean, you could see that, like, there were a lot of groups, man. Lords from the Underground, Foo Schnickens, Criss Cross, and so many other rap acts that were sort of pick up on that and periodically use it. After a while, it was like, this shit is getting played because everybody's starting to bite our own style. So they were definitely innovators in that respect. So definitely got to give them props for that.
You just made me think about the whole, like, straight from the sewer joint. Man. Like, I think I might have said this joint, like, during the verses. For one, like, you know what I'm saying, surprised me to see them come out. Yeah. And I was like, I think I put it on Facebook, man, wait, am I back in 1992? Like, right. and my man's like, yeah, you are. And it feels great. I'm like, yeah, exactly. It but does. Like, the thing, I mean, they look grimy as hell back then, but now, like, I mean, still been kind to them, but like, they weren't as menacing looking back then. Like, I told somebody, like, man, back then you couldn't tell me the Scoob was like the 1990s poster child for like the East Coast stick-up kid. Yeah, exactly. Right. And then my man said back, but not Drazy. I'm like, nah, Dre's like you just pop out 5 people trying to get you to hide the gun from him type shit. Like, right. Hey, that is a perfect description, though. That is a perfect description. Yeah, man. I mean, you just heard 5 shots go off. Like, you say Drazy come around and go, hey, what's up, kid? Like, check this out. Like, man, how old this shit? I'm like, nah, fuck that. Nah, dog, I'm good. Nah, man, I'm about to head home, man. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, he got to go run to the top of somebody's apartment building to stick that joint down the chimney vent. Right. You know what I'm saying?
Time for a break to talk about another great deal at McDonald's. It's summer, you're hot, and McDonald's is here to keep you chill with their new frozen drinks. Try their medium frozen Coke, frozen Fanta Blue Raspberry, and frozen Fanta Wild Cherry for just $1.69. What a sweet way to beat the heat. Grab it through the drive-thru or order on the app. Price and participation may vary, cannot be combined with any other offer. McD app download and registration required.
Your plans? Today it's dinner with the parents at your spot.
We gotta come back here.
Now, their spot. Or you're on the edge of your seat at the game.
Come on, just one time.
And it's the one. Or maybe you're catching the next flight to...
Now boarding flight 1850.
Oh, that's you. The choice is yours. And when you're with Amex, it's not if it's going to happen, but when. American Express. Don't live life without it.
Yeah, man, gosh, that was you talk about a different time, though. And it's like, you know, it's funny, like those style of videos, as we got into 93 and 94, and especially in the 95, you started seeing that element of the videos to be a lot darker, you know what I'm saying, where it was okay to be outside. Like, yo, I think a lot about those videos for Mobb Deep, Shook Ones, and Survival of the Fittest. It's like, I think a lot back to that imagery and start seeing a lot of those things beginning of what you saw in Want Efx, those two videos, for Microphone Checka and for They Want Efx.
Highlights and lowlights.
So highlights and lowlights, Jay, just give us a few. What highlights you have and any lowlights if you have them.
I mean, of course, like, you know what I'm saying, the singles like Mike Checka and They Want Efx. I think like two joints like people really kind of like overlook for me is East Coast and If Only.
Yeah.
And Clap Your Hands. Like those like, because again, it just takes back to that Kings of Dominion trip, man. Like, you know what I'm saying? I was just like nodding my head hard as hell. Like, you know what I'm saying, especially the way the production was and how they came in on those bars.
Yeah.
Lowlights, not so much lowlights in the way of songs. I just kind of wish like the radio version of Mike Checka would have been on the album.
Yeah.
The one that was on there was good, but like that again, that second one, that shit just like slaps, bro.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
Same thing for them. They Want Efx. Like, I wish that version, maybe they would have had like those strings released as like a remix string, like on the last joint, you know, maybe like last two tracks or something like that. But like,
oh yeah.
Other than that, I mean, really can't say anything in the way of lowlights as far as like, you know, a song I really wasn't rocking with.
Yeah. True. So, well, my highlights, I mean, to me, obviously, like you said, Mike Checka and They Want Efx. Like you said, that remix version of Mike Checka is just today.
Slaps.
I played that, I think, yesterday in the car, and I had my volume at full blast, and I was like, yo, this song is from 1992, but this shit still goes like shit. God
and if you got a banging system, dude,
yes.
my God. Like,
yeah. And the same thing for They Want Efx, the radio version of what They Want Efx, man, that beat, it's like, yeah. Like, dog, this is what the hell brought me into them even back then. But for the album tracks, I mean, to me, another underrated track on here, Brooklyn and T-Neck. Obviously, speaking about their origins, you know, Brooklyn and T-Neck for Dray and Skoob. East Coast, I got to give it to you there on East Coast. And If Only. The last track to me is really, really strong, though. I think you're going to talk about Straight Out of the Sewer. Like, that's a perfect way to sort of close that album out. And leading pretty much what the next album would be. That next album being titled Straight Up Suicide. That beat is hard as hell. If you're going to close out an album, especially a 10-track album, I mean, you want to make sure you close it out strong. I do like Just Some Men as well with that sample from Slick Rick, you know, and having that to be able to be on the hooks. The hooks here, the way the production is done, you didn't really have a whole lot of hooks where they were singing or rapping the hooks. I mean, mostly what you had, majority, were vocal samples, which I thought was a staple of the time as well. True. If I do have any lowlights on here, though, Jay, I do think